I'm Jill Bloom, publisher of Roofing Contractor, Walls and Ceilings, and Building Enclosure. Welcome to everyone watching to our weekly legal insight with Trent Cotney, the CEO of Cotney Construction Law. And also joining me today is Art Eisner and Rick D'Amato, both from Roofing Contractor. Again, thank you for joining us, and lots of exciting things coming up in the near future. First is your webinar this week with Craig Breithaupt that I'm so excited to see myself. But can you give us a preview of what you will be talking about?
Sure. Well, as always, thank you guys for having me on here. We've got a lot of interesting topics to discuss, but the webinar that we're doing on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern is going to be sort of a deep dive look into what the election results mean for construction. So we're not going to talk about, whether you're a Trump supporter or Biden supporter. That's not the topic. And the panel that we've got set up is designed to give you three different viewpoints. So you've got my viewpoint, which is legal. You've got John Kenny's viewpoint, which is from a business side because he runs our consulting group. And then Craig Breithaupt obviously is the feet on the ground, boots on the ground in DC. He's got a significant amount of experience as a national lobbyist. So you're going to get the real insight of what we anticipate is going to happen, not just the rest of this year, but looking on into 2021.
We'll try not to steal too much of your thunder from that event, but let's talk about some of the legal challenges that still remain in this election. When we talked last time, you believe we still may be a few weeks out before we have a declared winner. Do you think that's still the case?
So in looking at it, I don't think that there is a lot of potential for any of these legal challenges to overturn the result. Okay. And I do think that when all the votes are tallied, you might have a state that flips or whatever. But at the end of the day, getting to that 270, it's going to be a very, very difficult process. And it's going to require Trump to flip Pennsylvania. In order to do that, the cases that are before the courts now deal primarily with fraud issues. The standard is very, very high there. It's very difficult to get the evidence that's needed to cause something drastic like that to happen, to overturn some of the votes or call for some kind of new election or whatever the remedy might be. So I am very doubtful that at this point, anything that the Trump legal team is doing is going to change the result. Had it been one state, maybe, but the problem is there's too many different things that need to be attacked at the same time. Time is ticking. And from a messaging standpoint, all the stuff came out on Saturday. Everyone's a lot of people have already kind of turned the corner, and it's difficult. It's going to be very difficult to get things changed. Now, that being said, if I'm part of Trump's team, what I'm thinking is, hey, this is a great opportunity to solidify my base for whatever the transition looks like, whether it's he still stays in politics or he does something different. So I think some of it is messaging. But if I've got my legal hat on, I would advise, if I was, advising that client, I would say, save your money, because at the end of the day, the standard is so high, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay, so assuming then that things do stay the way that they're tracking, right away, the president-elect's focus has really been on curtailing the coronavirus as much as possible. It's still very early, but should contractors expect a much different approach to COVID-19 safety protocols and enforcement?
Well, was talking to some contractors the other day, and they said, well, we're not going to have to worry about coronavirus now that Biden's in office. It's going to be cured. Of course, they were joking, but the reality is that regardless of what Biden's plan is, okay, it's not going to, I don't think it will necessarily change how construction operates. And let me tell you what I mean by that, okay? I think the rhetoric that we're seeing now from the Biden campaign is great. Okay, I think having a task force, great. I think, reinforcing the CDC guidelines and, providing funding for testing and vaccines and some of the other stuff, fantastic. But the reality of it is that if you have Biden saying, I want you to wear a mask whenever you're outside the door, I'm in the state of Florida right now. I can tell you what Governor DeSantis is going to say in response to that. Okay. And being able to enforce that mandate on a state level, we already saw the difficulty that the Trump administration had sort of on the reverse side of that. So I think what you're going to have is you're still going to have these pockets of enforcement. Okay. I'll give you a great example. Speaking to you from Tampa. Tampa, as a Democrat mayor, had a lot of regulations that I didn't see elsewhere in other counties. You could see certain, states that are blue or cities that are blue engage in some additional protocols and enforcement that takes us back to where we are in March or April. But if you are in a red state or red jurisdiction, I think it's going to be business as usual. So my advice to contractors, this is not a political statement one way or the other. My advice to contractors is keep doing business as usual. If you are in a heavy regulated state, you might anticipate that some things may revert back to where it was. And I can guarantee that those numbers are going to continue to rise to the end of the year. But we should be okay as far as, roofing and construction being an essential business and being able to get out and continue to do work.
So with this uncertainty aside, what else are you hearing from contractors this week that they're concerned about?
Everyone's focused on the election right now. Everyone, and you know how I know this is you go to social media and it's dead. It's either the occasional post about elections or that's it. Like all the people that are normally on there nonstop, you don't see anything out. And it's because everybody is sort of still processing what's going on. If you are really thankful that Biden is in office, there's that sense of relief, but you also have the uncertainty of all these legal challenges that are out there. If you are really pro-Trump, then you're watching these legal challenges and the recounts and just earlier today or yesterday announced that the Arizona lead slipped a lot, in Trump's favor. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now as to what all of this means. Really what everyone should be focused on are the two Senate races left in Georgia. Now, everything that I've heard suggests that they're going to get that. Okay, and that's not necessarily the Democrats aren't going to take both of them. But that being said, that is where your true focus should be right now, because that's where Wall Street's focus is, I think, as well. If the Democrats are able to convert even one of those seats, you end up in a 50-50 type split situation. That changes things dramatically. So that is where all of your policy truly gets in. Wall Street, like I said last week, Wall Street favors gridlock. So as long as that gridlock exists, there's not going to be monumental changes that are going to happen. They're going to be slow changes. You're going to see some executive orders. You're going to see a lot of rhetoric. You're going to see a lot of policy. But at the end of the day, the big changes, the big money changes come from Congress. And that's where people need to be focused right now.
Well, that's obviously a great place to segue to our man in Georgia. Rick, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Art. And Trent, always a pleasure. Glad you're here. I'm feeling particularly powerful as a Georgia voter. I agree. It's very significant. And I will only make one comment. It's not a political statement, but my vote has definitely been colored by the way this situation is from the primaries. And I voted, we've been there and had a look at all this already and have voted for Senate for a number of years. But this changes a lot, just looking at the future. Congress holds the purse strings and definitely, as Wall Street would tell you, a split government is a good thing because nothing happens all that much. But anyway, we're glad you're here. We're also glad and honored, and I would tell our listeners that the Best of Success series kicks off next week. And for years, we've been honored to have you on the Best of Success stage, and it's no surprise that you came up to the top. You bubbled to the top as one of the Best of Success presenters. Just give us a little overview and tell us, what do contractors typically ask you about? What do they want to hear?
So Best of Success is always my favorite event of the year. And the reason I like it is because unlike any other event, it really focuses on the business aspects of running a roofing company. And the conversations that I have there, conversations that I've had over the years, and I have been blessed to be able to speak a handful of times. I are always centered around business and how legal and business interface. And I've always been a big believer that, legal isn't just a bad word. Lawyers aren't necessarily a necessary evil. I think that there's a way to convert legal into business opportunity, to marketing opportunity by, emphasizing that you're a safe workplace, emphasizing that you care about COVID-19 and the protocols that you're taking there, or having a contract that reflects, how you go about doing business, those kinds of things. So I would say the majority of the conversations that I have end up being how to thread the needle between balancing business with legal. And I try to present on similar topics so that, I'm not, reciting chapter and verse of a law book. It's more like, this is the real world. This is the pragmatic use of the law. And that's really what I like about Best of Success, because you get that real world take. You get to talk to your peers, and it's unlike any other event that I can think of.
Well, we couldn't agree with you more. It's always been, it's been a great event for us. I guess this is 16 years or so, give or take. If I could, Trent, I just very briefly wanted to ask you just for some comments. I just heard this is the now ranking #1 hurricane season on record. And we've got a couple of them out there, Eta and Theta. My Greek's not all that good, so I may be saying that wrong. But we've also been talking for weeks about supply chain issues, and we've been talking about workforce for years. Just give us some comments on what you see out there and have seen through this really unique hurricane season.
It has been a tough one. We just the other day, we had some pretty high winds up in the high 30s. Coming into work, I was getting blown around a little bit. So, what was unique about this hurricane season is the number of storms that all hit within a certain area, and they got hit over and over and over again. And we have seen, supply chain issues there. We have seen, obviously, plywood, tarps, shingles to a lesser extent, but somewhat fasteners, all the critical residential commodity type roofing products. We've seen an impact there. I've had some reports of drywall, difficulty finding some things, and they're still suffering. It has become a real legal quagmire because part of the issue that you're having with insurance is figuring out what damage was caused by what storm, what occurrence, right? And navigating that is an insurance company's dream because it gives them the opportunity to not pay. But it's also a nightmare for the insured because they've got to figure out what's what. And then from a contractor standpoint, you're halfway through a job and you got another storm roll through. One of the biggest things I think we saw this year was just how damaging, if it hadn't hit home in the previous storms, how damaging floodwaters can be. It's really the flood that causes the most damage. So I think one of the things, every time that we have hurricanes like this, it's a learning opportunity. I worked with FRSA, was it last year when they had the Panama City storm? And we've seen a lot of changes that have come out of that in our Florida building code. I think you're going to see the same kind of thing happen. I think whether it's the international building code or local codes, you're going to see continued trend towards trying to find resilient materials that can weather these types of storms or, not be completely destroyed during a flood or water intrusion type event.
Thanks. I appreciate those comments. I know the contractors find them helpful. Art?
Thanks, Rick. Trent, I did want to follow up and ask you back to Best of Success. Our first panel discussion features a who's who of former contractors of the year: Jack Scallo, Jim Zeminski, Steve Little, and Greg Wallach, guys I know you're well acquainted with. Last year they talked about overcoming their most critical challenges in business. Certainly they've been challenged again in 2020. What can contractors expect to hear from these guys? What are you looking forward to?
So I know every single one of them. They are all very, very bright business people, not just great roofing contractors, but very bright business people, a lot smarter than I am. And what I'm looking forward to hearing is how they are going to tackle 2021. Okay, we all know that there's going to be a downturn. We sort of staved that off this year. I'm curious to see how they handle that, especially from a commercial standpoint. I know they do a lot of commercial work, so I would be curious to see how they are going to function in sort of this new world order. I'm also curious to see what opportunities arise with a Biden administration. I was looking at some very interesting things with green roofing today, some stuff that people hadn't seen before that I'm curious to see what kind of initiatives are going to come out of there that may encourage renewable energy. So the one thing I would tell listeners is that those are leaders of the industry right there. And that's a must see because they have been there and done that. And if they're talking, I'm listening.
Well said. And since we are on the cusp of another Veterans Day, I know we talked about some of the content on roofingcontractor.com, talking about how the roofing industry continues to pour out support to our military heroes. Any special message for veterans in your mind this week?
So we have, tremendous respect for everybody that serves or has served. And it's something very personal to me. My father was in the Army. My grandfather was in the Navy. My grandfather on the other side was in the Army. I come from, a military family. And growing up in Jacksonville, Florida, their bases, we grew up right next to the Naval Air Station there in Jacksonville. So you can't help but grow up respecting it and being around it. And, but for a few things that happened in 1991, I probably would have been in the military myself. So I have tremendous respect. We actually employ several veterans, and one of our lawyers right now is on leave, Army Reserve, getting JAG training. He works out of our Tallahassee office, and I just refer to him as captain because that's his rank. So, so it's something that's near and dear to our heart. Obviously, you can't see. I'm speaking to you from our training room, and all across our training room, we have military memorabilia, from flags that were flown over Iwo Jima to paintings and all kinds of stuff. And the reason I do that is so that not just myself, but the people that work here keep that in their mind, because I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have people fighting for our freedoms. And that's really what I think is important on Veterans Day.
Thanks for that message, Trent. Jill, back to you.
Thank you, everybody. But Trent, I'm not sure exactly what happened in 1991 that led you down the legal route, but all I can say is we are all extremely grateful that you followed that path, and you're now, CEO of Cotney Construction Law, just one of many businesses I know that you have. So, but again, thank you for all you do, because it truly is an honor to be friends with you and partnered with you in all the things that you're involved with the roofing industry and construction in general.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you to everybody who's watching today. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to us at roofingcontractor.com or wconline.com. But when you're at roofingcontractor.com, make sure you sign up for the best of success, which is if you click on events along the top, and then you'll see best of success in the drop-down box. Click there, you'll get all the information that you need. And also don't forget to sign up for Trent's webinar this week. When is that again, Trent?
Thursday at 3.
Okay.
Thursday.
And you can go to, can they go to cotneycl.com to get that information to sign up?
All over social media. You can hit me up, whatever. We'll get you the code. So.
Fabulous. And for the best of success, Trent is speaking on December 15th. So you'll get that too when you come to roofingcontractor.com. But again, everyone stay safe and healthy, and we look forward to seeing you next time.